How are we meant to view dreams? So in the Torah portion this week, we read about Joseph the dreamer. Joseph comes to his brothers who are not in a good relationship with him, and he says to them, I've had a dream. We're all in the field and we're bundling sheaves, and your sheaves all of a sudden get up and bow down to mine. The Torah tells us they hated him for it. They hated him. Sure enough, right away thereafter, he says, I had another dream. This time, it's the stars and the sun and the moon bowing down to me. This time, it doesn't say only that they hated him, but that they were jealous of him. So the first time they hated him, the second time they were jealous of him. What is the difference? The difference is there are two kinds of dreams. The one kind of dream is, I guess, a precursor to Freud's meaning of dreams. It is the perspective that dreams are basically a representation of your subconscious desires. It could be your subconscious fears, it could be your subconscious aspirations that are too outlandish to, in your mind, to be expressed when you're awake and aware and think of them that this is not possible. And when you sleep and your consciousness, your rationality is dormant, that's when your subconscious comes to the fore and you have the fears and you have the passions and desires come to the fore. And that's how the brothers saw Yosef's first dream. This was simply his passions, his desires, but it's foolishness. It's actually not real. It's not a prophecy. It's not foretelling of anything. It just tells you where he's at, where his mind's at. And when they heard this is where his mind's at, this is what he's thinking about, they hated him for it. It's like the Talmud tells a story of Rishon ben Hanania. He used to go to Rome all the time to try to annul decrees. So he meeting with the emperor, and the emperor says, oh, you Jews are meant to be very smart. Tell me what I'm going to be dreaming about tonight. So he says to him, you're going to dream that your arch enemy at that time, the king of Persia, is going to capture you in war, and he's going to make you into a shepherd of pigs. Sure enough, he thought about it all day, and that's what he dreamt about that night. So dreams are just something that we think about during the day, or as we said, it's our deeper subconscious desires and wants and wills, but it has nothing to do with reality. And that's most of the dreams that we have. But then there are times that dreams can actually be a revelation from above. In Job it says it is a time of sleep and dream that if God wants to send you a message, that's when he sends you a message. It's when, if you have a clear mind and you're not confused by many foolish thoughts during the day, it could very well be that the dream is when you are getting a message from above. As a matter of fact, there's a work called Or Zarua. And the reason it's called Or Zarua is the author lived 800 years ago. He had a question of how to write the name Akiva in a divorce. Everything has to be exact in the divorce. You have to write the name exactly as it's meant to be spelled. And he wanted to know if Akiva is spelled with a Hey or with an Aleph, two different letters that could spell the end of the name. And so he asked the question to get the answer in a dream. And he sees the verse Or Zarua Latzadik Yishrei Leiv Simcha, which make the last letter of these words make Rab, Ar, Reish, and Akiva with a Hey at the end. And indeed, parenthetically, that's why we start the Yom Kippur service with this verse, Or Zarua Latzadik Yishrei Simcha, because we remember Rabbi Akiva, because that's when Rabbi Akiva was murdered. In addition, we just come from Yutas Kislev, the 19th of Kislev, the great day of celebration of the Alter Rebbe, of the first Chabad Rebbe. And it's fascinating, 500 years prior, there's a book called Shalos HaTshuvos Min HaShamayim, Questions and Answers from Heaven. There was a great scholar, sage, one of the authors of the Tosafot, and he would ask a question and he would get an answer overnight. And he'd wake up in the morning and he would have the answer. And he wrote a whole book with it. And the only date he has, by the way, is the 19th of Kislev. In the whole book, there's one date where he asked the question, and the response he got is, today is a special day. Today is Yom Surah, day of great news. And we found out the great news only 500 years later when the Alter Rebbe was released from prison. So we see, on the other hand, that dreams can actually be a message. And that is why the second dream that Joseph had, where he sees the stars and the sun and the moon bowing down to him, now the brothers are thinking, hold on, two things. First of all, it's a repetitive dream. That's something you have to take into account. Second of all, this is not what he's thinking about during the day. He's not thinking that the sun and the moon, which represent his father and his stepmother, would be bowing down to him. That's not what he's dreaming. Even they wouldn't think that that's his aspiration. And so therefore they thought, this must be a message. This is a true message. And hence, if it's a true message, that means this gave them tremendous fear. When you're jealous of something real, of something that's not just a possibility, but something that's a reality. And so when he gave him that dream, that didn't just elicit within them hatred, it actually elicited jealousy, because they were resigned to the fact, ooh, this seems to be real. This seems to be what might be very well happening. And that's why it elicited within them a jealousy, not just the hatred. What does it tell us about dreams? It tells us most dreams are foolishness. They're coming about what were our thoughts, our subconscious, etc. But there's sometimes that we have to take a dream seriously. When is that? When we have repetitive dreams, when we dream of a tzaddik. If a tzaddik comes to us in a dream, then that's not just like that. That is something that is significant. So if we dream about a tzaddik coming to us, telling us a message, that's something we need to take seriously. We need to think of actioning those dreams, because otherwise the tzaddik wouldn't come. And sometimes you had stories in the Holocaust where children were visited by their parents, grandparents, and told to get up and run. And because they did that, they actually survived. Their life was saved. I have someone in our community who told us just that his grandmother had this dream that their parents came to her and said, get up and run, and she did, and that's how she survived. So that does happen. So 99% of dreams are, take no notice of it. The only notice you should take of it is maybe it teaches you a little bit what's in your own subconscious, your fears, your aspirations, your desires. That's the lesson you can learn from it. But sometimes, if it's a tzaddik, if it's a loved one coming to you, warn you about something, then maybe you do take it a little bit more seriously. Shabbos.